Good morning. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, and I am your interest cancellation expert, the only interest cancellation expert on the app of Clubhouse and on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Interest cancellation expert. What is that? Oh my goodness. Did you realize that we're going to pay over $300,000 in interest in our lifetime on average? The average family pays 35 to 39% of their take home pay just on interest alone. How would you like to be able to cut your interest cost by 75%, take that money that you would have paid in interest, and then turn it into generational wealth? Good morning, William. Good morning, Jonathan. All right. Listen, I have Stephanie in here, Lydie in here, Casey in here. Go ahead and say good morning and tell us where you're from. And then I'm going to get started here and sharing with you some good information. So let me go ahead and be the first one to say good morning in the chat to everyone. And then I'm also going to share the room. Somebody already shared the room. Thank you so very much for doing that. So we're going to share it on Clubhouse as well. Pay off your mortgage in 7 years and become a millionaire. Now, anybody interested in paying off their mortgage in seven to 9 years, or maybe even less, and taking that money they would have spent and turning it into $1 million? If that's the case, I need to see some hands raised and at least some number 9s in the chat. Put a number 9 in the chat if you think that's interesting to know, if that's something you would like to know, how to pay off all of my debt, not just mortgages, but all of it, and take that money I would have spent on interest and turn it into at least $1 million. William Bush says, I'm from Huntsville, Alabama, right here with us. And Jonathan Jones is saying good morning from Douglas, Georgia. And lady, is it lady? You're from Michigan. I grew up in Battle Creek, Michigan. All right. Just so that you'll know. All right. So that is good to know. I like to see some folks here from Michigan and some people north of the border. Pauline saying hello from Canada. You know, we have a lot of Canadians on our program. And Armin says, good morning from Palatine, Illinois. He's actually tuning in and watching us live on, let's see, where are you watching us from? YouTube. He's watching us from YouTube this morning. And folks, if you want to see some of these examples that I'm getting ready to put on the screen, you want to go to either YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, search P.I.L.L Method, and then you'll be able to see our examples we're putting on the screen. Use a secondary device like a tablet or laptop or something, and then you can turn down the volume there and you can hear us here on Clubhouse and watch us on your device. Oh, and you can see the numbers. You can listen. You can't really get to this unless you actually see the numbers. Let me break this down for you right here, right now. For over 88 years, since 1934, when amortization of mortgages and other loans became very popular here, people have never really understood it. And because of that, we are able to get a payment we can afford to buy houses and cars and education. The payment we can afford. But what we don't really realize is how much of that payment actually goes to interest, and you do not have to pay it. All right. Let me give you just a quick example. I'm going to give you a quick example of how much of our money goes to interest. But first of all, I want to talk about some of the basics here. P.I.L.L method, prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. All right. If you understand those four basic banking principles, you can save a ton of money on interest you don't have to pay. And you'll find out that you don't need more money to manage your debt better. You just need to learn to pay less interest. How can we do that? How can we pay less interest when all of our whole lives we've been taught how to pay interest? And even the strategies we have been taught to employ over the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, even those strategies are inadequate. And most of the time here at the P.I.L.L Method, we're going to tell you to do the exact opposite of what you've learned to do, even if you've been told these are best practices. So let's hear. I want to talk about, Armand says, what is Clubhouse? It is an audio app. And if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can go to wherever your apps live and download Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a great place to meet people of like minds and talk about whatever subject interests you. So if you're interested in mortgages, there are groups for that. If you're interested in real estate investing, even if you're interested in whatever subject, knitting, soap making. So whatever you're interested in, there are groups that have experts from all around the world that meet and start talking about these types of subjects. So I came to Clubhouse talking about real estate and interest cancellation. And because of that, there are, what do we have? Over 9,000 people in our club. And let's see, how many people are following me? How many people are following me right now? About a little over 11,500 people are following me. So folks, we are in the Mortgage Syndicate Club right now. So go ahead and tap that little greenhouse at the top of the screen. If you're not a member of the Mortgage Syndicate, they're here giving out great information on Clubhouse about mortgages, real estate, short-term rentals. They are all things real estate. I mean, just from beginning to end, there's valuable information here 5 days a week. We come in on Sunday, making it 6 days a week that we share our information with the Mortgage Syndicate Club. My club is the P.I.L.L Method Club. So you tap on my bio, and then you'll be able to see my club, the P.I.L.L Method Club, and join it. Follow me as a moderator, just for a little social currency, because we are here giving out good information 3 days a week. So we're getting people online. We're getting people here in Clubhouse. So start sharing the information. And I want to share with you someone who has taken advantage of the P.I.L.L Method and paid off their house in record time, saving tons of interest. And he may just be somebody you heard of. His name is Dr. Eric Thomas, and some people call him E.T., the hip hop preacher. Let's listen to him right now about what he did to pay off his mortgage and why.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down from my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
All right, folks, if you want to know the month, day, and year you could be debt-free from all of your debt. I mean, the average family has 13 different debts. If you would like to know the month, day, and year you could be debt-free within a 7 to 9 year window on average, then click the link above. All right, click that link. You'll find another button there that says Get a Savings and Earnings Report. follow all of the directions, and then you will be let into our financial form. Put all of your information in, hit submit, and within 48 hours, someone from my staff will be giving you a call to confirm your information. Once that information is confirmed, then you can get set up for a consultation with our staff. Now, once you get that consultation, you will learn the month, day, and year you can be debt free and how much interest you can save, and an earnings report on how you can take that interest savings and turn it into wealth. So right now, folks, I want to put something on the screen, here that you might be interested in. Oh, before we do that, let's talk about the book. All right. My book is the only book out of 33 million titles on Amazon that gives you the basics of how to understand how interest cancellation works and how loans work. Did you know that not even your real estate agent, your mortgage professional that you got your mortgage from, your CPA, or your financial planner, none of them have learned how an amortization schedule works in their classes to get their licenses or certifications? It's not taught. How in the world can we be in the world of finance and not be taught how loans actually work? Well, let me ask you, each one of you that are listening or watching right now, how many of you have had a class on amortization and how to defeat it so that the banks can stop taking advantage of you and you can take advantage of a situation, turning your loans into wealth? How many of you have ever had a class on that? And I've been asking that question for 16 years. I keep getting the same answer. No and nobody. Nope. I didn't get that class. That wasn't a class. It wasn't even offered. And we don't know the rules to the game. We're taught to use credit cards, personal loans, car loans, mortgages, student loans. All of these loans we're expected to use to make life easier, but we're not taught how to use these tools. And I call them tools because they're actually, I love borrowing money. We're not taught to use these tools to our advantage. And that is why we are here today. And this book introduces you to how to take advantage of these tools. So get this book today. It is the only one on Amazon that gives you this type of information. All right, the P.I.L.L method, a better way to eliminate debt. So now I'm going to put an amortization schedule on the screen right now, and then we're going to go over a little bit of math, all right, so that you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm putting a $200,000 mortgage on the screen at 6% interest. The payment is $1199.10, and I want to show you something. Out of that very first payment, only $199.10 goes to principal and $1,000 goes to interest. Okay, so I'm going to also put a calculator on the screen. All right, let's put that on the screen. And if $1,000 out of this payment goes to interest, you need to see these numbers. Okay. And if you want to come to the stage and ask questions about it, go ahead. But you need to understand this. If you're new to the room and you want to see what we're looking at, go to YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and search P.I.L.L method, and you'll see our live broadcast. But here is the thing. I'm putting the $1,000 in interest. You got a principal payment of $199.10 and an interest payment of $1,000 for that very first payment. So let's put our $1,000 into the calculator. We're going to divide it by our regular payment, which is $1199.10. It equals 83%. So in this case, 83% of your payment goes to interest. If you're going to break that, if you want to break that down per payment dollar, every dollar that goes towards your mortgage, if you have a mortgage that's similar to this, 83 cents out of every dollar goes to interest. And 17 cents out of every dollar is paying down your mortgage. You're paying down your mortgage with 17 cents, while 83% of that money goes to the bank. How would you like to be able to turn that around? Anybody here want to ask some questions about how to turn that around? Raise your hand, come to the stage, and we'll talk about it. All right. But in the meantime, let me show you some of our clients that have actually turned this thing around. So we're going to take this, move it out of the way, and take a look at, oh, wow. Let's start here. Let's start with this one. Here is a client, all right, not too long ago, that has a $204,000 mortgage. All right, $204,000, and you need to see here that out of the first 5 years, here's what the bank wanted on their $205,000 mortgage at 4%. In 5 years, they were going to pay this loan down by $18,675. Look how much interest the bank wants: $37,325. $37,325. That is totally unfair. So what we're going to do is say, instead of doing that and giving the bank a total of $204,000, $143,000 interest on a $204,000 loan, which actually means that the bank wants 71.87% of what we borrowed. The bank wants that in interest. Well, it's not quite 83%, but my goodness, 71% is still a lot of money. You borrow money, and the bank wants 71% of what you borrowed, but they get to call it 4%. So instead of doing that, instead of giving the bank $143,000, let's just pay out $41,000. Look at this. We're going to pay out $41,000 to pay off the $204,000. I need you to go back up and take a look at this one, though. The bank just wanted $37,000 interest in the first 5 years, just to pay off 18 grand in principal. Well, how about 34,000? Just pay out 41,000 to pay off the 204,000 in 7.5 years. And here's the interesting part. Take the $108,000 and all the money you're no longer spending on this mortgage, and over the next, the next 22 years or so, and turn it into $815,000 in earnings, potential wealth accumulation. And folks, that number is at 1% return on the money. 1% return on your money. $800,000. You can take that money that you were going to give to the bank, and if you're intentional, you can turn it into $800,000 while you're still living very well on your income. Isn't that amazing? Why give all that money to the bank when you could turn it into $800,000 for yourself? Well, let's take it now. I said we could become millionaires. Let me show you another example here. We're putting another example on the screen where in 300 months, this person has already paid out, by the time they've talked to me, all right, paid down that loan by $126,000, but paid over $474,000 in interest in just 300 months. Well, look at this. That's over $600,000 paid out for $126,000 in benefit. Does anybody want to keep paying money like that? Okay, 600 grand paid out just to pay down the loan by $126,000. Well, we don't have to do that anymore. So this couple has over $300,000 left to pay over 19.3 years. Over $300,000 left to pay over 19.3 years. And the bank wants them to pay $147,837 in interest to do that. We're going to show this couple how to only pay $53,000 out and pay off that debt in 5.3 years. And in the 14 years they were going to be paying this loan anyway, we're going to show them how to take the money and turn it into $1,034,120. You see, it's not the extra interest that's the problem. What really is the problem is the money that money can't earn for you because you gave it to the bank. Now, if you can cut your interest cost by 50 to 75%, wouldn't you rather do that with your money and invest it for yourself instead of giving it to the bank to invest? Because listen, if the bank received that $102,000, they were definitely going to invest it. So here's the thing. This family willingly went to the closing table and signed their loan documents in order to give the bank $102,000 more than they needed to. And by the time I met them, they had already given the bank $474,932 in interest already. $400,000. Now keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. I'm going to show them how to get all of the money back that they've ever paid in interest in life, plus a lot more, by taking that money that they didn't have to pay in interest to acquire the same asset, okay, and take that money instead and invest. They're real estate investors. They're going to take that money instead and turn it into, over the next 14 years, turn it into $1,034,000. And that's the least amount that, because I mean, real estate is growing at what? 10, 15% year over year. But this is just a 1% return on their money. Compound interest working for you folks is amazing. $1,034,000 they would not have had because they gave all of that extra interest to the bank. What if they had met me some years ago before they gave the bank $474,000 already? What do you think about that? All right. So Steve Mack in the chat says, hi, everyone. And somebody here is coming into my room trying to sell us some stuff we don't need. So we're going to delete them. All right. Any questions? Any comments about what we've gone over so far? Anybody? Nobody wants to come to the stage and talk? All right. Well, if you don't want to come to the stage and talk, at least share the room. All right. Share the room and let's take a look and see if there are any questions or comments on Clubhouse. Oh, so we've already shown you how to get $800,000. And one of our clients is going to turn that money into at least $800,000. We just showed you one that's going to turn the money that they were going to give to the bank in over $1 million. Let me share with you another one. Here it is, $2 million in earnings. So in 100 months on this particular mortgage, let me close this up so it can get bigger. All right. In 100 months, they paid down their loan by $27,000, giving the bank $137,000 already before they met us. All right. Paid out $137,000 just to pay down the loan by $27,000. Don't you guys think that's ridiculous? That means that's $164,600 paid out just so they can pay their loan down by $27,000. Does anybody here want to spend $137,000 of their hard-earned dollars just to get a $27,000 benefit? We do not have to do this. We don't. All right. So now let's take a look. Let's take a look at what we could do instead. Now, here's what the bank wants. This loan is at 7% interest. And that's where the loans are now, 7% interest. A 7% loan means the bank wants you to pay back 139.5% of what you borrowed. 139%. Wants you to pay back way more in interest than you've ever paid in principal. So how much more interest does at the time they met us, how much more interest does the bank want them to pay? They've already paid $137,000. Now, on top of that, the bank wants them to pay another $363,000 just to pay off $330,000 that they owe. With us, they're only going to pay out $134,000 and then take that money, the $237,000 in interest. We're saving them over $237,703 in interest they don't have to pay. And by doing that, over the next few years, we're going to show them how to turn that into over $2 million in earned money, whether it's real estate investing or whatever investment they choose, because it's not hard, because the numbers we're showing here at a 1% return on your money. We're going to show them how to take that money and not give it to the bank, but pay it to themselves and turn that money into $2 million. You can take your debt, folks, and turn it into wealth once you understand it. All right? So continue to share the room. Tell your friends about it. Come on in and learn how we're doing this, because eventually I'm going to put our opportunity cost calculator on the screen that does all of the math for us. All of the math. So Don, how do we get there? In what increments? How do we manage our money in order to do this? Well, we're going to go over that in just a few minutes. So anybody want to have any questions at all? I'm checking the chat. Everybody just saying hi and good morning. Oh, and Stephanie is from Biloxi, Mississippi. Good morning. And Faith is here again from Bolingbrook, Illinois. I have some friends there. All right. Good morning to you. And Don, my name is Don Daniel. I'm right here in Huntsville, Alabama. Good morning, everyone. So, are you guys seeing this? Does this make sense to pay out this kind of money to the bank so that they can invest it where we could actually save it and invest it in our own families? All right. Well, let's take a look at one more loan here, a commercial situation where this particular investor is paying out a ton of money, but they're also making a lot of money. Real estate investors that make a lot of money really at the time before they met the P.I.L.L method, they weren't really looking at how much interest they were saving. Paying. They weren't looking at that. What they were looking at is how much money they were making month after month. That's what they're really interested in. So let's take a look at this one. All right. Here is this is a loan of over $2 million. Over $2 million. And with that, the bank wanted $1,123,000 in interest. All right? $1,123,000 in interest. So I told them, no, you don't have to pay all of that. Nope. What you could pay out is only $234,000. That is a savings of over $900,000. $900,000. And in just a very short time, we're going to show them how to take that, multiply it by 10, or more, and then earn an extra $9 million. And that's at a 1% return on the money. 1% return on the money. All right. So, folks, let's get into the program that does all of this for you so that you can understand for yourself the math behind this, and so that you can see it is possible to make this kind of money while paying off your loans more efficiently and saving money in interest. So let's hear from, we're going to play Dr. Eric Thomas one more time. Let's hear from him while I set up the next, examples. So we're going to talk to hear from Dr. Eric Thomas and then do a short recess. All right, go ahead.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
All right, folks, we're back. If you want to get a savings and earnings report for yourself, go and click on the link above or go to ice10k.com. That's ICE, stands for Interest Cancellation Expert, ICE10k, the number 10 and the letter K.com. And then you'll find a link there that says get a savings and earnings report. Fill out the information. All right. Follow all of the instructions and get a report that tells you the month, day, and year you could be debt free, how much interest you can save, and then over a short period of time, how that interest money can be turned into earnings for you. We just had Hank come to the stage. Good morning, Hank. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. What's happening, Ice?
Listen, man, tell us who you are and where you're from.
I'm from Michigan. I'm a man of many hats, but I'm an audio engineer.
All right. Excellent. So do you have a question or comment this morning?
No, I'm here to learn, man.
All right. Well, listen, thank you for being here to learn. And what is it that you would like to learn most?
Real estate. You know, how to multiply my money.
All right. Well, watch this example. Have you ever been to the room before?
Oh, absolutely. You're an OG. I appreciate you.
All right, Hank. Thanks for hanging out. Okay.
For sure.
All right. So, folks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put this on the screen. If you're new to the room and you want to see what's on the screen, go ahead, and go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Search P.I.L.L Method International, search P.I.L.L Method, and then you'll be able to see our live broadcast. Do that on your secondary device, and so you can listen to us on Clubhouse on your phone. Then you'll be able to watch these examples I'm getting ready to put on the screen. This is John and Rebecca Jones. All right, good morning. We have some more people in here. Oh, and Canada has shown up again. All righty. So go ahead and continue to share the room, folks. Continue to share the room. We just went over several examples, people, all of you that are new, how individuals are taking their loans and turning their loans into wealth. So this is John and Rebecca Jones. Let's go over what they're doing in our system. I'm now showing you, if you want to see, remember, go to one of those 4 platforms that I talked about, search P.I.L.L Method, and you'll see our live broadcast. And you can see that on a secondary device. So now, John and Rebecca Jones, here's what they're working with. I'm going to click on the Accounts tab in our program. And what you're going to see once it loads in is what they are working with. And I'm not talking, and they're not rich. We're talking, it's not magic that we're talking about here, folks. It's just math. But we have never learned the math to benefit us. So John and Rebecca Jones have $500 in the bank, $500 in their checking account, a little over $5,000 in their savings account. They have an auto loan of $25,000. They've got a Visa. They got $2,000 that they owe on the Visa. It's at 21%. And they have a $200,000 mortgage at 6%. Our program has already told them before they even get started, they're going to save $179,000 in interest, $179,517 in interest. And they're going to be able to pay off their debt in 7.7 years. Here's some more data that the program can show us. If I hit some of these buttons and choose another output, so we can take a look at years to pay off. We can look at the payoff date. We can also see that. But let's take a look at the principal remaining. When we add up all the money that they owe, I think it's important that we realize that they're going to be able to pay off everything that they owe in 7.7 years, and that's $227,000. What's really important is they don't have to sacrifice lifestyle to do it. They're going to keep their same lifestyle, cut their interest costs by $179,000, and therefore be able to pay off their debt in 7.7 years. Now, I can see how much interest they saved. I can also see, we also did a calculation on how much interest they have left to pay. Out of all the interest the bank wants, John and Rebecca Jones can see from the outset, they have only $56,625 in interest left to pay out of all the interest the bank wants. So they know all of this up front. They know the month, day, and year they're going to be debt free. Well, let me change this. Okay, let's change it to the payoff date. As from today, they will be done in June 12th, 2030. June 12th, 2030. They're supposed to be out of their debt, all right, in 2052. They're supposed to be done paying off this house in 2052, 30 years from now.
Can I ask you a question?
Go right ahead, sir.
So the last time we spoke, we were talking about loans as well, and you were telling the crowd about how you can actually be eligible for a loan, and you were talking about how to do that. How do you do that exactly?
I'm not quite sure what you're asking. How to get a loan, or
Yeah. So say you wanted to get into real estate, but you didn't want to use your own money. You actually want to take a loan to use that money to get you some capital.
well, anybody can get a loan if they're credit worthy. And if you want now, are you talking about getting?
Because we were talking about
Yeah.
paying off student loans. That was the topic.
Oh, you don't want to get a loan to pay off the student loans.
Oh, I know. Absolutely.
No. Okay. So you want to get a loan for what purpose specifically?
To be able to invest in real estate.
Invest in real estate. So you mean a loan that you're going to invest this in real estate so you can turn this into a rental. So you want rental property.
Right.
Okay. Now, have you ever heard of a DSCR loan? That's debt service coverage ratio loan.
That's a negative.
Okay. So debt service coverage ratio means that if you have enough rent coming in to cover your principal and interest, taxes, and insurance, if you have enough rent coming in to pay that and have just a small amount left over, then there are over 100 banks out there that will do this type of loan. They're not your big banks. We're not talking about the Wells Fargos or the Chase banks or we're not talking about those. We're talking about private banks that have billions, even trillions of dollars to lend to real estate investors. They just can't advertise. It's against the law for them to advertise. So they have brokers that go out who find people like you who want to invest in real estate. And then you can set that loan up so that you can get up to 80% of what you need to purchase that property if you have the rent coming in that will cover the loan payment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. So that means you're going to have to come up with about 20% down, where the bank would lend you the 80%, and then the rents would actually take care of the payment. And that's what they use to qualify the loan.
One more question.
Nothing else. Go ahead.
Do you think it's better to go through a credit union or a bank?
For what reason?
For the exact reason we're talking about.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about a bank or credit union. These are private banks you've never heard of. We're not talking about regular banks or credit unions. You can't get a DSCR loan from your credit union. They don't exist.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, these are private banks that you've never heard of, but you may have seen them on the internet. It's saying, do you want to borrow X amount of dollars? Are you an investor looking for capital? Have you ever seen those kind of ads on the internet?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
How do you know if it's not a sham?
Well, you don't. That's why you need to work with a reputable broker that knows which banks are real and which ones aren't. Okay? And by doing that, you work with a broker that knows their way around on how to put one of these loans together. Now, I know several brokers that do this. All right, Hank?
All right, Ice, keep me moving, man.
All right, man. All right. Anybody else have a question or a comment? Raise your hand. Come to the stage. All right, folks. Let's get back to the subject at hand. We have John and Rebecca Jones here, and what we're doing with them, we know the month, day, and year they're going to be debt-free in 2030. They're not supposed to be out of debt till 2052. Wow. And they're going to be able to do that because they didn't give the bank $179,000 in interest that they're looking for. They're only going to give the bank $56,625 without changing their budget and without sacrificing lifestyle. They're going to learn how to disrupt the bank's timing and make it impossible for the bank to charge them all of that interest. So it's not about how much money you have. It's about how much interest you don't pay. All right. Now let's go. Do you see where I'm looking at the reports button right here, and our program does a lot of the math in the background. Okay. So we're going to click on.
I'm on the website right now.
You're on the website. Which website?
thepillmethod.com.
Yep.
Says get your savings report.
Right.
And then once you type in all that yada yada, yes, I want to save. Then what comes after that?
Well, do you have a mortgage right now?
No, not at the moment.
This is for people who have debt. So if you have debt, you can learn the month, day, and year you could be debt free on the debt that you actually have, Hank. That's what that's for. Sound good?
I know. Asking for a friend.
Okay. Put your friend's information in there.
I love you.
All right. Then have your friend put their information in, and then we can tell your friend, once we contact your friend, when they're going to be out of debt. All right. By using our program. There you go, Hank. All right, folks. Here's what we've got. I'm going to go into the reports here, and we're going to take a look at net worth. I'm going to click on net worth. We're going to bring up another screen, and then I'm going to show you something very interesting. Now, remember, John and Rebecca Jones were supposed to be out of debt by 2052. So we're going to click on wealth accumulation over here to the left. I have net worth, available credit, interest earned, wealth accumulation, rates, balances, payments. We can get a whole bunch of information out of what they're doing, but we're just going to click on wealth accumulation right now. All right. And we're going to scroll down and look at how much wealth they can accumulate by the time they were supposed to be out of debt in 2052. Now, remember, they're going to be out of debt by 2030 instead. So by the end of 2030, if they take that money and invest it correctly, I mean, if they just put it in a bank account or even in a CD that's making 1%, okay, watch this. They could take that money and turn it into 25 grand by the end of 2030 when they get out of debt. The next year, it would be 62,000. The next year after that, 99,000. By the time we get to 2052, look at this. They would have over $837,669.11. And that's at a 1% return on their money. Folks, this is just math. It's not magic. Compound interest working for you, even if it's just 1%. What if they were averaging 6 or 10%? It'd be well over $1 million by then. Does this make sense to everybody? Stop giving all the money to the bank and turn it into wealth for you and your family. So we had put the amortization schedule on the screen before. Now, if I have some newer people in the room that have not seen this. So Don, what are some of the basics? What are some of the basics? Ask your questions even in the chat or come to the stage and we'll answer some more of your questions. All right?
Ice, this is no cap. What separates you from the competitors?
Separates me from the competitors like whom?
Like, for instance, if somebody's gonna sign up for you,
Right.
to get their savings report, and all that jazz, and you're gonna build with them and help them, what separates you from, the next Joe Blow out there?
Okay. There's only one company on the planet that can tell you exactly how much interest you're saving, and that's this one. Nobody else does. So when you're trying to manage your debt, do you think it would be important to know how much interest you're actually paying and how much interest you could save? Or do I just want to know when I'm going to be out of debt?
I mean, most people just want to know when they're out of debt.
Exactly. But what good is it that when you're out of debt and you feel good about it and you find out you actually paid $50,000 more in interest than you needed to? What happens to your feelings at that point?
You're probably super butthurt.
Okay. So that's what it's all about. Okay. So it's about, if you pay the least amount of interest, then you can get out of debt much faster. So let me ask you this. If somebody was getting a loan, Hank, and all of their loans were 0% interest, is there any financial benefit to get out of debt early?
Yeah, you can make more moves.
No. I mean, you've got the debt. Okay, you've got the debt, right? And I said it's at 0% interest. Is there any financial benefit to paying the debt off early if you got 0% interest?
Oh, I see. No, it's not.
No, it's not, is it? So.
But I don't like owing people.
That's true too.
That off ASAP.
Listen, well, I don't know. If you
You think there's more? So there's more, what you're saying is there's more of a benefit to not care when to pay it off.
Well, that's what I'm saying is what's really important. So the next time you buy a car, all right, and you want to borrow the money, and they're going to give you the money at 0% interest, would you take that loan?
Hell yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
That's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. And so would you rush to pay that off if they were giving it to you interest free?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. And that's my point. But every single program out there, except for ours, tells you when you're going to pay off the principal, and they don't even touch how much interest you're actually paying. We're focusing on what keeps people in debt forever, not how much you borrowed, but how much it costs to manage what you borrow. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, I think it's good.
All right. So that's the difference between us and them. So anytime you make a move, you want to know what it's going to cost you or what you can make. That's what makes it interesting. We have another comment here, a question from Pauline Sharp from Canada. She's watching us on YouTube. Pauline is asking, how would this work for Canada? Pauline, I have clients in Canada right now. Okay, so when you put a loan in with us, all right, we can do it. We can put in a switch. Let me see if I can show you how that works. So if I'm putting in a loan into our system here, so let me pull up our system again. All right, and we're going to go back to our system here, back to Action Plan. And then I'm going to put in a new loan. So put in a new mortgage. I'm not going to put it all the way in. I'm just going to show you what we take a look at as far as working with Canadian mortgages. Okay. So let's go ahead back to Action Plan. We're going to go into accounts and we're going to click on add new account. So I'm going to click on an add new account and I'm going to add in, let's add in a mortgage. All right. And it's just a regular mortgage, okay? And let's see, and manually add. Now, I need you to watch this. So here's our regular mortgage, and I'm going to go to advanced, and then I can look at here. It says monthly compounding. Monthly compounding. American mortgages have monthly compounding. Canadian mortgages have semi-annual compounding. So we would just click on that for a Canadian mortgage and put everything in. And then it works just like any other program, any one of our programs. So this program works very well for Canadians. We have a lot of Canadians that are already using the P.I.L.L method system. So Pauline, I hope that answers your question. So on average, a 6% Canadian mortgage versus a 6% American mortgage, because of the semi-annual compounding, the Canadian mortgage is naturally less expensive. So we're going to approach that differently when we are looking at saving Canadians interest dollars. So I can save more dollars in interest on an American mortgage because of the monthly compounding. But the amount of interest compared to an American mortgage is going to be less on a Canadian mortgage because Canadian mortgages aren't charging as much interest. So when you do the math, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to save a ton of interest, but we're going to be able to get out of debt sooner because of the interest that we save.
Are we always saving Canadians?
Hank, we're not going there. All right. So, Hank, thank you very much for coming to the stage, brother. And if you have an additional question, please raise your hand and I'll bring you back up. Okay. All right, folks. Anybody else have any other questions today about mortgages, student loans, credit cards, anything that has to do with debt? Because what we're doing here is showing people how in the world that they can take this information and how much information that this program can give you in optimizing your loans so that you can take that money that you would normally give to the bank and turn it into wealth. All right. Let's see here. Let's go back to Does anybody have any questions? So we got somebody here from Nepal. See thy wealth says keep that 0%. Keep with that 0%. It says okay. It was answering some of the questions. So, does anybody want to know the basics of how to read an amortization schedule to see why the bank is how the bank is charging us so much interest, and the basics of how we can save? If Khan says yes, all right. If you want to see, if you're with Khan, see that well says yes. Okay. So if you want to know that, put a number 9 in the chat. I want to see some number 9s in the chat if you want to know how to read an amortization schedule so that you can save. So I'll show you the basics. This is not our program. I'm just going to show you what the bank is doing to you and how you can disrupt it. Okay. So we've got some people who want to see that. So you want to go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn on a secondary device, and you can see what I'm getting ready to put on the screen. All right. So I'm still going to use this $200,000 mortgage at 6%. This is the same mortgage Pauline Sharp put number 9 in. All right. Pauline says, I used this method and paid off my mortgage last month. Thank you, Virginia. Virginia says she uses a P.I.L.L method and paid off her mortgage last month. And thank you for saying that I'm awesome, Virginia. You know, Virginia, do this for me. Go ahead and shoot like a 1 to 5 minute video and send that over to us. We would love to put you on our website and on our YouTube channel. Okay, so do that for us. All right, so folks, let's take a look at this. John and Rebecca Jones have this $200,000 mortgage at 6%, and we have some people here that want to know how to read their mortgage on what we're doing to help them. But I have 4 shares in here. 4 shares. Please go ahead and share it some more. Share this room some more so that other people can come in, see that you're in here, and learn how to read an amortization schedule. All right? Pauline Sharp says, yes, I'm in Ontario, Canada. All right, fantastic. All right. So here's where we are. Folks. All right, I'm up to 5. Somebody else just shared. Now it's up to 7. Let's see if we can get it up to 10. I don't think that was too much to ask. 10 shares, and we've already had 100 people come through the room. We have 27 people in here right now, and we're going to teach you the basics. Now, this is not, and I repeat, this is not the P.I.L.L method. I just showed you our artificially intelligent program, AI, that does all of this for our clients. All right. I'm just showing you the basics that the program uses, but the program optimizes what I'm getting ready to show you. All right. So you ready? $200,000 mortgage at 6%. Here's the payment, $1199.10. Does anybody want to come to the stage and can actually see the numbers and want to help me this morning? Do I have a volunteer? Miss Janetta, who's on the Clubhouse for less than a week. She's got a party hat on. Let's give her some social. I love when the new people come in. Janetta, I'm going to give you a follow. All right. All right. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. So we're going to give you a follow. Some of the folks give Miss Janetta a follow because she's new. And we have another party hat in here. 6459 has a party hat on. So let's go ahead and give them some social currency. And let me see if is there anybody else? So do I have a volunteer that wants to come to the stage and to learn firsthand how to read an amortization schedule? Any volunteers? All right. I'm not seeing any hands raised. So let's go ahead and do this. So in the very first payment, folks, what you're seeing is John and Rebecca Jones have made their payment of $1,199.10. $1199.10 went to principal. $1,000 went to interest. Does anybody believe that that's fair? Anybody believe that's fair? Do you believe that's fair? Put it in the chat. Do you believe it's fair to pay your mortgage, and $199.10 goes to principal and $1,000 goes to interest? Anybody think that's fair? All right, 6459 wants to come to the stage, but you've got nothing in your bio. So let's bring you up, ask your question, and then we'll see where this goes. So let's bring him up, invite to speak. All right. 6459, how are you doing this morning? Going once, going twice. Look at your, if you would go and look at your lower right-hand corner, hit that microphone, and you'll be able to unmute. And then you can speak. All right. Do you have anything you need to ask? All right. Well, maybe you're having a little trouble. All right. What we're going to do is move you back to the audience. There you go. And if you get that thing solved, come on back. All right, folks, here we go. We had some number nines come in to into the chat, and then some people have said no, they don't think that's fair. So let's take a look at payment number 2. It looks a little better. $200.10 goes to principal, $9.99 going to interest. Well, so let's take a look at how to read this thing. Once you make your first payment, the $11.99.10 is subtracted from what you owe. You're left with the principal balance here of $199,800.90. The bank uses your month-end balance to determine how much interest you pay on the very next line. That's all you need to know. The bank uses that number, the $199,800.90, to determine how much interest you pay on the very next line. And on the very next line is line 2. You're going to pay $999 in interest instead of $1,000. That dollar that you're not paying in interest now goes over to the principal side. Now you're paying $200.10, but your payment stays the same. It's still $11.99.10. That's the benefit of an amortization schedule. You keep the payment low enough so that you can make the payment to purchase your home. But what they're also doing is charging a ton of interest to do it. Okay? So now, as you can follow this, $200.10 goes to principal. And then at the end of the month, you're left with $199,600.80. The bank uses the payment principal balance on line 2 to tell us what we would pay on line 3, and so on. So let's take a look at this. Let's just say we make that first payment in January. All right, we've made our payment, $11.99.10. $1,000 went to interest, and our next mortgage payment would be in February. And we can see that on the amortization schedule. So that would be $200.10 that would go to principal next month, the very next month. Here's my question. Do I have to wait to February to give the bank that $200.10? What do you guys think? Do I have to wait till February to give the bank that $200.10? Let's put your answers online and on Clubhouse. Do you have to wait? Do I get any answers? Do you have to wait to give them that money? Oh, Jeanette says no. I don't have to do it. All right. Olympia says no. All right. So if you have it, we can actually give that money to the bank in January as well. Then that money, that $200.10, would go immediately to principal that we owe, and we're paid down to line 2 in January. So if we're paid down to line 2 in January, folks, we're paid down to line 2 in January. My next mortgage payment for February is on what line of the schedule? Somebody put the number in. What line of the schedule will we be on if I give the bank that $200.10 in January? and I'm already paid down to line 2. What line will I be on next month? Somebody put it in the chat. Put it online. Janetta says 4. Not quite, Janetta. You're close. It's number 3. Yes, Dominique. It's number 3. Exactly. You'll be on line 3. So remember this, folks. Remember this. Whatever principal balance you're on, always you look to the very next line as to what to do. Okay? So if I'm already paid down to line 2, and my very next mortgage payment for the next month would be on line 3. All right? So now I'm on line 3. I pay $201.10. And then I pay $9.98 in interest. Guess what happened to line 2? We got rid of line 2 for not almost $1,200. We got rid of line 2 for only $200.10. So Martina says, "Good morning, Mr. Ice. I made a request for my amortization schedule from my bank." You don't need to. You can make one up yourself. All right. There's no need to do that. They gave you one when you got your mortgage. You don't have to ask them for anything. I'm using this for educational purposes, but the guy who wrote this program, his name is Brett Whistle, BRET WHISSEL. I'll put it in the chat. BRET Brett Whistle, WHISSEL. All right. And just, you can, do a Google search and you can get this amortization calculator yourself. But anytime you pay extra on your loan, you destroy the current amortization current amortization schedule. So this is not my program. This is something I use for teaching. All right. So his name is Brett Whistle. You can make one up yourself. How's that sound? All right. So now we got rid of line 2 for $200.10. So everybody who's participating, what happened to the interest on line 2? The $909. You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. All right. The $999 in interest on line 2. Folks, what happened to that? What happened to that $999 in interest? Anybody? Let me take a look and see if anybody's putting it in the chat. Steve Mack says it's gone. You just saved $999 you never have to pay because you gave the bank that $210 early. Well, once we've learned that, what would happen? We paid our mortgage in January. We take a look at this amortization schedule, and now we're adding up the principal balance. You see, you attack this loan, you attack a loan with the principal payments only. Okay? When you pay principal, you don't pay interest. So the interest money is not even calculated in this until you're all done. It has nothing to do with what your prepayment is going to be. Okay? So now, we don't consider this. The interest is rent on your money. You are not required to pay this interest. In fact, you can pay off your mortgage tomorrow, your entire mortgage, and you don't have to pay any of this interest. So we're showing you how to give the bank back money and make it impossible for them to charge you the interest. Watch this. If you're in January on line 1, what if you took a look at this and said, you know what? My principal payment on line 2 is $200.10. On line 3, it's $201.10. And on line 4, it's $202.10. Let's add that together. That's $603.30. What if you had that in your bank? Do you know it's making about 0.1% right now in your bank, in your savings account? 0.1%, making pennies a year. Pennies a year. So What if we took $603.30 out of the bank, made our regular mortgage payment, gave the bank an extra $603.30? What would happen to these three interest payments, the 999, the 998, and the 997? That's nearly $3,000 in interest. Steve Mack says it's eliminated. It is canceled. That's why they call me the interest cancellation expert. It's gone. Okay. Alan says bye bye. Bye bye. Come on now. Nearly $3,000 in interest you don't have to pay by taking what, $600 out of your bank and putting it on this mortgage? Virginia says, Gonzo, it's gone. It is gone. Wow. Crystal, I didn't know you were here. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I am doing well. Thank you, Mr. Don. How are you doing this morning?
I am so excited about helping people not only pay off their mortgages, Crystal, but we're showing them how to take that money and turn it into generational wealth. I mean, how to pay off a mortgage and become a millionaire. That's what we're talking about today.
I noticed that you added and become a millionaire. So I love that part. I was listening to hear what the new tips that you were sharing about that was. So that's awesome.
Well, listen, would you like to introduce yourself to the folks and tell them what you do?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Crystal Armstrong, based in Dallas, Texas, and I am a certified and licensed escrow officer here in the state of Texas. I'm independent, so I work with title companies to cover their escrow needs, and I meet with clients because I'm also a certified signing agent, and I can cover both their escrow and the closing component. And I meet with people who are refinancing their homes, whether it is a cash out, a standard rate term, a reverse mortgage, many different ways people are looking to just get through right now. So I talk to Mr. Don quite frequently when I see really high interest rates, and I try to send those people to him as customers or potential customers in hopes that they can learn this 7 year payoff and get themselves in a better position with the even higher interest rates. And so that's a little bit about what I do day to day. I also own a luxury travel agency as well as a marketing, PR, and branding firm. So thank you for allowing me a chance to introduce myself.
You are so welcome. And Crystal, why is it that what are you seeing for some people that you work with? What are you seeing that prompts you to share the pill method with them? What are you seeing in is why do you do it?
So the first indicators that I can look at to understand what people are doing is their closing disclosure. And for anybody who has never purchased a home, a closing disclosure has all of the terms of your mortgage contract. So it's going to have the appraised value of the property, the loan amount, the interest rate, the term of the loan. So whether it's anywhere from 10 years up to 30 years, I haven't seen anything more than 30. I know you've mentioned that there's some 40 years, Mr. Don, but I don't think the lenders that I work with have offered those. And then it's also going to show if anything is in escrow, like your taxes, your insurance, any homeowners association, and closing costs. And then if it's a cash out, it's going to show the amount of the loan that the person is actually receiving directly to them, whether it's to do home improvements or consolidate debt. Then I look at the third page, which lets me know if they're only paying off an existing mortgage or if they're consolidating other debts. The vast majority, and I'm talking like probably, I said 95% yesterday to someone, but I think it's closer to 98% of the closing disclosures I've been reviewing lately actually have credit card debt and large amounts of credit card debt, multiple cards they're rolling in. And so when having a conversation, well, why are you choosing to do a cash out? You know, what is it you were looking to do with the money? Most people tell me that they were just overwhelmed by debt. They got to get their debt under control. So lately, Mr. Don, and like I shared with you, they've gone from anywhere from a 2.8, 3.5% loan to 9 and 10% loans because they need to consolidate that debt. And they're like, well, I'm going to just, once I get this debt paid off and my credit score goes up, then I'm just going to refinance again in 2 to 3 months. Well, that's probably because that's what their loan officer told them. But I've heard Mr. Don say enough to people that don't just refinance to get the rate down, because he has a lot of options that they can explore to avoid going through the closing process again, because closing costs are expensive. So that's when I send them his way, because I know that they're only doing this to try to get out of credit card debt, personal loan debt that has much higher interest rates. So even the 8 to 9% sound attractive when you're paying 23, 25, maybe even 30% in credit card debt every month.
Thank you for that. Listen, I do have another question for you. How long have you been doing this with loans? How long have you been doing it?
This month makes 6 years.
6 years. Now, let me ask you
No,
this.
I'm sorry. November made 6 years. So
Okay.
I'm already at six.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you. Have you seen people who have taken this money, paid off their credit cards, and then you see them later having charged their credit cards right back up?
So that's going to be a question to ask me maybe in the next year or so, because
Okay.
in the past 2 years, the interest rates were low, and the people who qualify for those low rates had good credit, right? So they were not coming in with much debt at all.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them did, but the vast majority were literally doing the refinance to get the money out to do home improvements. So I
Ah,
went from hearing people tell me about they're going to put in a pool, redo all their floors, upgrade bathrooms and kitchens, really high dollar home renovations, to I need to do this because this is the only option I have to get out of all this debt I'm in.
okay.
Happened, of course, over the last year or so.
All right. Well, let me ask you that when you're doing these refis and you're doing them mostly in Texas,
Only in Texas. I'm
only in
licensed in
Texas.
Texas.
So, what is the average closing cost? Can you give me an idea of what closing costs are running? How much does it cost to close one of these refis?
So before, and then also it depends on when you close. So anybody that is refinancing right now, closing costs are going to be higher because you have to fund your escrow account for next year for 12 months. So they're going to take 12 months of homeowners insurance as well as 12 months of property taxes and include that in the loan. So you're not paying it out of pocket, but that is a large, lump sum of your loan that you're going to have to allocate for the escrow account. But for people that are going to close maybe in the spring and you just have standard closing costs, you're looking at probably anywhere from about $5,900 to $8,000. But the other thing I see, Mr. Don, is
Mm-hmm.
that everybody is buying down points. Now, before, when people were buying down points, I would see on average maybe about $2,000, $3,000 for points. Now I'm seeing 10,000. I told you I even saw somebody pay $22,000 to buy down points because their credit is not good. The rates that they're qualifying for are like 15%. So in order to get that 15 down to the 10 and a half, that's still overwhelmingly, shocking to me. They're having to spend like 11,000, 15,000, $20,000 to get that down. So now their closing costs include that amount, and you're looking at maybe $15,000, $17,000 in closing costs, $23,000 in closing costs, which is a lot of money.
Okay, so let's take a look at that, folks. You've learned a little bit today about how to read an amortization schedule. And because of this information, with the P.I.L.L method, let's take a look at a scenario where you have the opportunity to buy down some points to make, to give you a better payment. So we're going to duplicate this tab. We're going to put in $350,000. All right. And we have the loan is at 7%, 350,000 at 7%. Let's take this out and let's take a look at this. Our payment on that is 2328.56. Okay. Now I'm going to duplicate this tab. All right. 350,000 at 7%. I'm going to show you someone who is spending, let's just say $12,000. $12,000 to take it from 7%. They want to take it down to 5. All right. So they're going to take this loan down to 5%. They paid $12,000 for it. And now they got a new payment of, ooh, 1878. 1878 as opposed to 2856. All right. So let me, where's my calculator? All right. So how much are they saving there? So we've got, let me see, we're going to clear this and we're going to put in 23. Okay. 28.56, buying down the rate now. All right. And then our new payment after we buy down the rate is 1878.88. So we're going to subtract 1878.88. That equals almost $500 difference, $449.68, and we paid 12 grand to get it. So I'm taking out my notepad here. We're putting in, all right, the 449.68. We paid $12,000 for it. All right. So now we're going to take the 12,000. We're going to take the $12,000 that we paid to get it. All right. And we're looking at $12,000. We're going to divide it by our 449.68, divided by 449.68. That equals 26 payments. All right. That's a little over 2 years. So it's going to take them about 2 years so I'm saving enough money, and 2 years, I'll get my money back, my $12,000. A little over 2 years, I'll get my $12,000 back in savings. Or I could, if I can afford the payment, I could take my $350,000 at 7%, keep the 2328. Now, do I still have my Crystal? Do I still have my $12,000 in my pocket? If I take the 7%? And then what would happen if I just look at my cumulative principal here and just apply the $12,000 to as a prepayment to this loan, make my very first payment and put that $12,000 towards principal on this loan and watch what happens. So I'm putting that $12,000 on now. That takes off 1 year. That takes off 2 years. 3 years off the loan. That's 3 years, 2 months. It's going to take me 2 years, 2 months just to recover my $12,000 if I use it to buy points. But if I keep the 7% loan and put my $12,000 down, I knock off over 3 years off the loan and save $76,000 in interest I do not have to pay. So folks, if you can afford the payment, does it make sense to buy down the rate or use that same amount of money at your current rate and just apply it to principal and save over $70,000 in interest you never have to pay? You tell me, folks, which is better, buying down the rate or using that money to kill interest? You tell me. All right.
But you know what, Mr. Dunn?
Go
I
ahead.
think it would be helpful if a lot of people talk with you or knew this information that you're sharing beforehand, because by the time they get in front of me, they've already been talking with their loan officer. They've already been explained that this is the only way that this can happen. And of course, given the circumstances that people are in, it sounds like, okay, well, this is just what I have to do because there are no alternatives proposed. They're not giving them this option that you just presented. So people agree to that. And in their minds, they're telling them that, if there's any resistance, everybody tells me that an officer says, well, you just need to get your credit score up. Once your loans, your credit card debt and everything gets paid off, then you can always come back and refinance again. Well, of course, they're encouraging them to come back and refinance again because they want them to pay closing costs again.
Right.
So they don't know what you're talking about as even an option to ask.
That is a very good point. So, folks, listen, if you know anyone that is thinking about refinancing, if you're thinking about refinancing, if you're thinking about doing a cash out refi to pay off some debt, do you know that once people talk to us here at the P.I.L.L Method, most people do not do a debt consolidation? I can show them how they can keep their debt in their current configuration and pay off that debt and the mortgage and everything else they owe in about 7 to 9 years. We had one client some years ago. All right, when I met them, they both had master's degrees. And when I met them, they had $13.06 in the bank. That's it. And they wanted to start working off of one income so that one of the parents could stay home and homeschool. But they were wondering how in the world they could do that. So when they signed up with us, we showed them how, and they came back and they put it in a video for us. We have that video on our website. And in fact, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can search for $13.06 in the bank, and that video will come up. And they'll tell you that they paid off about $24,000 in debt in the first 11 months while they were on our program using their same income. And they had more money in the bank in after those 11 months than they did when I met them. She was able to quit her job and homeschool their children because of the debt relief. Now, where did they get that extra money to pay off $24,000 in debt? The money was always there. We show them how to reconfigure and look at their money differently so that we can eliminate tons of interest they no longer had to pay. It was the interest that was keeping them in debt. We show them how not to pay the interest, and then they use that money to pay down the debt. In 11 months, she was able to quit her job by the next school year, stay home, and homeschool their children. This is what we're talking about, folks. So if you're thinking about refinancing, if you're thinking about debt consolidation, if you're thinking about getting a new mortgage, even at these higher interest rates, talk to us first. Take a look at my 10K card right above our heads. Click on that link. You'll see get a savings and earnings report. So if you're thinking about what is the best way to handle your debt, a lot of times a debt consolidation loan is not it. What you need to do is learn how to pay less interest on all of your debt, and then we'll show you how to maximize the use of your money. Ms. Crystal, I thank you for bringing that up today. We weren't going to go there, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Does anybody else have any questions about what we're going over today? Raise your hand, come to the stage, and we'll be able to handle your question as well. Maybe even have a comment. So, anybody else? All right, so
John, while people are coming up, I was just going to say that is so important to understand on the front end because, like with anything, we've always been told that before you go into the car dealership to purchase a car, make sure you already understand what you can qualify for, how much you want to pay a month, what's reasonable for you. If you go in already knowing, then it's less likely that you can be sold on something by the people that are in business to sell. That's what a loan officer's job is, whether they're in a car dealer.
you were saying a car dealer? I'm sorry about that, Crystal. You were saying about a car dealer?
Okay. I don't know what happened. Okay, no, I was just saying that when we go into the car dealership, if you're already an educated buyer, then you can't be sold because the people in the car dealerships, just like the mortgage lenders, they're all salesmen. They're there to sell you something because that's how they get paid. But when you understand the information that has been shared in the room today, then you're in a better position to ask more questions because the person who asks the questions controls the conversation. So notice when you go to make an application for a loan, they're asking you a lot of questions because they're trying to assess your situation. That determines how much money they know they can get out of you. So the worse situation you're in, the more they're going to sell you on things like buying down points and the fact that you can always come back and, they used to tell people 6 months. Now people are telling me they're being told anywhere from 2 to 3 months. So they're trying to get people back in half the time that it used to be so they can pay these closing costs again. So it's never a bad time to refinance, even with the rates going up, because like Mr. John said, the higher your interest rate is, the faster you can pay that down. But what's important to understand is why you're doing it, how that loan works, and all of the products that they're going to try to sell you on in that process. If you understand those, then you can tell them what you want to do, tell them what you don't want. Like, you don't want to buy down points, you want to pay it at this rate. You understand that you already have your plan in place, you've already, set aside the money that you're going to need to pay the higher mortgage, and you've already prepared yourself. They're going to pull your bank statements anyway. They're going to pull your tax returns. They're going to pull everything. They're going to have to see your proof of income with W-2s and paycheck stubs. So just make sure you already have the plan in place that you can present to them. That's going to cut out the questions. So if they really want to close you on a loan, they're going to have to go with your plan as opposed to the one that they would sell you.
Exactly, exactly. So, but and with let's talk about this for just a second, Crystal. You mentioned that the banks are out to make money, and the same could be said about the pill method. That we're in business. This is a business, and people pay us for our service. What makes us different from anybody else that's looking to do business?
Well, for me, what I've listened to you share and what I've known you told people, the banks are looking to make a lot of money over a long time. You're charging a fee for a service, you're giving people a plan of action. And if they take that plan of action and implement it in the way that you instruct them to do so, they will ultimately save money and see the money that they saved over time. You'll be able to revise their amortization schedule. The bank is not doing that. They're going to give you the 1 year loan, which I know a lot of people don't like looking at because every time we get to that and they have to sign it in their closing packet, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to look at these numbers. 2052 is so long away. Now we're into 2053 for those that are doing 30-year loans. I even hear people say, I won't even be alive then. But when people come to you, you can help them pay off these mortgages in 7 to 10 years. And most people aren't planning to die in 7 to 10 years, but in 30 years, depending on how old they are when they're doing these refis, they won't even plan to be alive. So I think it's a very different mindset in doing business with the pill method as opposed to doing the traditional mortgage refinance that I see people doing. And
Thank you,
that's just my
Crystal.
professional perspective.
Well, thank you, because that's exactly right. The money that you use to pay for this program is just a small percentage of the money you would have paid to the bank anyway. So, folks, it is a net zero cost to you. What does net zero mean? Net zero means if the fee that you pay is much less than the interest you're saving, then there is actually no fee because it's money you would have paid to the bank plus a lot more. So our average client saves $100,000 to $150,000 in interest. We get a small portion of that as a fee for a lifetime service. So that's kind of the difference. We got Chris on the stage. Chris, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, thanks. I wanted to share with you and get your thoughts on a financial guru had made a suggestion around credit card debt, and it did make some sense to me, but it sounded like I don't know if it can do more harm than good as far as your credit, but his thoughts were that if you had substantial credit card debt, that you stop. Well, you don't stop paying on your credit cards, but you send them, say, he said $5 on each credit card for that month, and you do that over a few months, and then excuse me, you get with the credit card company and tell them you're going through a hardship or whatever, and you really can't pay the credit card anymore, and you ask to negotiate a charge off with them, and a lot of times I guess they'll come back and say that we can charge it down to say a quarter of what you owe, and then they give you like a 3 month period to pay that, but you have to pay that to discharge that debt. And then they put something on your credit. I forget what the term was, that it was charged, something like it was charged off, or something to that extent, but it is like a negative on your credit. But then say he told of ways that you could get that worked off through the credit bureaus, or use a professional company to help you do that. And I guess it did make some sense to me, because I think the credit card companies and banks in general, they know and they kind of plan ahead that they're going to have charge off a certain percentage of charge off, because they're charging such an exorbitant amount for interest that they're getting over on people so hard that they're willing to take that percentage loss over time, and it doesn't affect them that much. And I guess that made some sense to me.
Okay.
But go ahead.
So here's what we've got. All right. Taking a look at it from the credit card company's point of view, and telling people that the credit card company looks to lose money here. They don't. They really don't.
No, I know they
I,
don't look to lose
I'm just
money, but
saying.
I know they
All right,
expect
I'm
that they
trying to help you
will.
here.
Right.
Trying to help
No,
you
go
here,
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
because you asked a question with the right perspective, because we have credit goddess in here. So let me tell you, you said it's kind of a negative. So, credit goddess, what is really going on with these companies? Because she is a credit expert. She came here just in time. What is going on with these credit card companies that tell people, we're going to help you by getting you to get these credit cards charged off? What really happens to them? Credit goddess, can you talk to us a little bit this morning? Well, you know what? Sometimes she comes in and people start calling her right away.
I was gonna say one thing quickly, Mr. Don, is that a lot of times, we always know it's good to have a lot of products with the same bank. So usually, if your mortgage is with your bank, your bank you have your personal accounts with, then likely you have credit cards with those banks. It's all in their system, right? So the moment that you start having challenges in one area, they look at everything to see if they're somehow a correlation. So usually when people start calling and requesting modifications on things, then they start to look at the other items you have with them and seeing, okay, are you paying this on time? Are you paying it late? Or what's going on? They already, like you said, they're forecasting for these things to happen. There's already foreclosures lists. I know a bankruptcy attorney, she has lots of lists that we are reviewing and preparing on how we will be able to help people in the first quarter of 2023, because a lot is going to happen before the end of this year. More people will be laid off, unfortunately. So they'll start the year without a job. The holidays are here, so people don't want to be without holiday celebrations, whether it's gift buying, a lot of meals, travel, whatever it is. So people don't have the money. They're going to put it on credit cards. A lot of credit cards are now sending out offers for 0% balance transfers. So you pay anywhere from 3 to 5% of the amount you want to transfer, and that money is no interest rate for probably anywhere from 12 up to, I've seen as long as 21 months. So people are going to go into debt and say, well, I have all this time to pay it off at this low interest rate. And the banks are looking at all of that to determine what they're going to do with these individual accounts once you come back and look for some help.
Exactly. So, Chris, here's the second part of that. To have a charge off, You have to be 3 months late on all of your credit cards. That goes on your record and stays on for years. So
His point was don't not pay anything. Pay them $5 a month for a few months, and then come to them and say, "Hey, look, I just can't do this anymore. I'm having a hardship, pandemic, whatever." And at that point, they, like I said, they know
I
you're gonna.
understand. I understand the
Go ahead.
process, but you asked me a question, right?
Right. But it sounds like you're saying don't pay anything
No,
and
what
just
I'm
wait
telling
for
you is
them
what
to.
happens when you do. Do you want to know what happens to a person if they do this? I'm asking you.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what happens when you do. You're going to get 90 days late on your credit profile.
So you're saying even though you're paying them something, you're still gonna get 90 days late.
90 days late because they can't charge off unless you go 90 days late.
So even though you're still paying them something, it's
It's
still
not
90 days
something.
late.
Listen, if you're not giving them the full payment by the time the due date is due, you're late.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay? So you got to go 90 days late on all your credit cards. That stays on your record for how long, credit goddess?
7 years.
7 years. This is what's happening when you guys do that. All right. And then, yeah, it works, is it worth it going through that and then digging yourself out of that hole for the next 7 years? So that's what's happening. So now you got to pay somebody like Credit Goddess. All right, you're paying for a service to kill your credit for the next 7 years. You're paying them to kill your credit for the next 7 years. Does it make sense to pay somebody to do that, Chris?
It, I guess it depends on if you're planning on making any purchases in the next seven, major purchases, I
Ex-
guess. But
exactly, because things happen in 7 years. A lot of things happen. People get better jobs. They want to buy a house in 7 years, and guess what? Even though they're making a lot of money now, they can't do anything because they killed their credit just to get rid of the credit cards. What if there was a way to pay off all the credit cards in less than the 7 years it's going to take you to get all of that stuff off? What if you could pay off everything in 3 to 5 years and stay on time? And not only does it not kill your credit, but increase your credit score. What if there was a way to do that instead?
yeah, that sounds preferable for sure.
Okay. So that's what happens when you use the companies that do that. Credit guys, do you have anything else you would like to talk about as far as these companies that kill people's credit for a living? Again, she's probably talking to some other folks. See, so as soon as she starts talking, her phone starts ringing.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Give us some more insight into what's going on with those companies.
Which company?
The
Say that again.
companies that kill your credit for a living.
Ooh, you talking about the debt settlement companies that do that?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I used to do this. This was the last housing market crash, and I was on the phone with Flame. Flame is coming in the room shortly.
Okay.
But I was telling him, I said, listen, we're gonna have to pivot in the credit space because, people are gonna spend less, people are gonna lose their jobs. And if that happens, then if you have any credit card debts or if you have a mortgage and you can't sustain your credibility, you will go behind. So there's going to be tons of debt settlement companies that's going to be on a rise here, debt consolidations that's going to come a rise there, and loan modifications. Loan modification, you're going to see a lot of these companies out there. Now, there are going to be some people, and I don't know, Chris, I think it sounded like someone advised you to go behind on your bills. And Don said, if you do that, it will affect your credit, even though you're paying something. Because you have to think about it. If your minimum payment is $35 and you're paying less than that, you have not complete your obligation, which was $35. If you're paying $5, you're now behind. And the payments that you did not make is going to show as past due the following month and the month after that and the month after that. It doesn't even matter if you just paid $5 towards it. You're not paying the minimum payment, so you're going to be behind on those payments, right? And so now here's where debt settlement comes in. These companies are going to present to you an opportunity to get your, your life back on track, your finances, your financials back on track, and we have a program just for you where you can settle your debt. But in order for you to even get that opportunity, you have to show that you are in a financial bind. If you're making your payments on time and you're wanting a relief of your debt, they're not going to give it to you because you're paying it. Obviously you can afford it because you're paying it. In order for you to even be offered that opportunity is that you have to show that you're in a financial bind. You cannot make those payments, and then you have to go behind entirely, and then once it goes into collections, then they do the negotiation where they're settling less than what you owe, because you can't settle when you're paying on time and you're making your payments, you meeting your obligations. You actually have to go in debt. You actually have to go into collection status where the debt has already been paid, you know, bought out and bought pennies on a dollar, where now you have room for negotiation. And that's what these debt settlement companies do, is that they settle 40%, 40 cent on a dollar, 10 cent on a dollar, and they make their little cut, and you make your payments on it. And then once you show that the debt is paid off, now you can rebuild from there. So that's like the debt, the journey of a debt settlement. When you're doing debt settlement, consolidation is different. Consolidation is when you're consolidating all of your debt now, but you'd also have to ask them, if you're consolidating, does that mean that I have to not use my credit cards? Do I have to close those accounts? You have to make sure that you're not closing out your accounts, because what will happen is that you no longer can use them, and now you have closed out the accounts and your scores will drop because you no longer have positive accounts reporting month after month after that. Even though you're consolidating your debt where you now have one payment, but you had to close out the accounts in order to do that, so they can buy you out and put you in one big loan and you make your one payment. So listening to Don and hearing about his program will actually lay everything out for you, where he can tell you where to put your money, where you're saving less on interest, because it's the interest that's on top of the principal payment that's actually put a ding in our pockets. But understanding where to put your extra money into and to pay off your debt, smart and in an easy and sufficient way where you have more money at the end, is the best way to go. That's the reason why Don do these rooms all the time. So I hope that kind of cleared it out for you. And I see you on mic a couple of times, Chris, but go ahead.
Okay, what's your question now, Chris?
Thank, thank you. No, I just wanted to say that does make a lot of sense, that if you're paying the minimum, you're kind of playing right into their hands anyway. They would rather see you do that forever, and they charge you so much interest that, could kill you, and they could care less. But, they're making out like bandits, so that's perfect scenario for them. So they're not going to want to, help you reduce, that, because you're making the minimum payments. I totally get that. That made a lot of sense and really resonated with me, because, they're, you know, they just take so much advantage of folks that, it's unreal, the amount of advantage they take on folks. But his point was, you pay, like, say $5,
Mm-hmm.
and something in the law, that if you pay them something, it's not like a total as bad as the negative could be on your
Oh, definitely. No, no.
record.
Well, let me tell you, it's as worse. It's as bad as it's going to get. It's as bad as it can get if you do that. It doesn't make it better that you paid them $5. That is a total and utter lie.
Okay.
So here's what's better. Because of all the interest they're charging, how would you like to find out what they're doing, learn the rules of the game, and learn how to pay them a lot less interest, up to 50 to 75% less interest? You still make your payments on time, and you're out of debt in an average on credit. If it's just credit cards, usually an average of 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that sounds great. I just my thought was,
Hmm.
my credit's near 800,
Yeah.
but I keep getting like credit goddess said about the zero interest offers constantly, and I'm just playing that game, just consolidate into that, and I'm getting there, where it's getting paid down. I just feel so bad I got myself in this situation,
Yeah.
with the millions of other people in this country, in the world. But it's just so predatory what they do. I mean, but
Hmm.
I mean, it is and it isn't. It's their business, and but it's just so sad that it has to be like this. Some people can never get out of this type of debt, and
Do you know what's really going on? It's the lack of education of how these loans actually work. What if there was a company out there that could actually teach you how the game is being played and how you can turn the tables around so all of this benefits you instead of them? Because it's nothing, it's just math, Chris. What if there's a company out there that could do that for you?
yeah, that'd be great. It just, yeah, I just, I just don't want to, I don't really want to pay for that information. I feel like that information is already kind of out there,
Well,
but
listen, Chris, if it were already out there, there wouldn't be people who where you are. Then here's what do you know who does not know how a loan works? Let me give you a small list and you can ask yourself. A real estate agent is not taught how a loan works. Did you know that?
no,
Do
I
you
did
have a
not.
do you have a mortgage? Or do you know people who
I
have a
do.
mortgage?
Yeah, I have a mortgage.
Okay. Did you know the person who sold you your mortgage did not go to school to learn how a mortgage actually works? They don't have to take a test on how a mortgage actually works to be able to sell a mortgage to you.
That sounds pretty sad, but I believe it.
But exactly, because if you gave your mortgage professional an extra $200, because if you put $200 on your mortgage, you're going to save interest and you're going to save time, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. If you gave your mortgage professional $200 and said, "Mortgage professional, please put this on your mortgage. Now tell me how much interest you just saved." Did you know your mortgage professional would not even have a clue as to where to start and how to figure that out?
I believe it.
Because they're not taught that. Your financial planner is not taught that. Your CPA is not taught that. How a loan actually works. We just assume that the information is out there, but it's not out there.
Yeah, I feel that because I made one of the worst mistakes in my life when I refinanced my house and going for a lower interest rate, saving a couple $100 a month,
Hmm.
thinking I was doing the right thing, and I could have already paid the house off, and yet I'm looking staring at 15 more years.
Exactly. And
Now,
that's exactly what we do when we do that. But there's a way to get out of that. Can you? So, did you get a 15-year mortgage?
no, it was a 30.
A
I
30
yeah,
year.
I
Okay.
did yeah, I did everything you could probably do wrong. I
No,
did.
no, 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 no.
And
You
I'm
did.
saving that couple $100 a month, and I thought it was smart at the time,
Or
but yeah.
let me tell you one of the reasons why they do that. Can you give me an idea of how much you borrowed when you refied? About how much? I'm gonna put something on the screen here. And if you want to see this on the screen, Chris, or anybody new in the room, please go to and I got 4 minutes left, so hurry. Please go to either YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn on a secondary device, and you can see these numbers. So, Chris, how much did you borrow?
When I refinanced,
Yep.
I want to say
Doesn't have to be exact for this example.
it was like 179.
Okay, 179. Do you remember how much you paid to close? Closing costs.
I don't offhand.
Okay, how much is your interest rate? 3.1.
3.17, something like that.
3 point, okay, 3.17. We'll put that in. All right. So now what I'm going to do is give you a principal and interest payment for that This is just the principal and interest. This does not include taxes and insurance. But you don't remember your let me see here. What happened to that? But you don't remember your interest rate? 3 point
Yeah,
3.17?
175. Yeah, something
Okay,
like that.
3.175. All right.
Yeah.
Something went wrong here. So 3.175. 175. Okay. And what was the amount? You said 147 or something?
179.
179. Okay. And then let's go ahead and figure that out. And our principal and interest payment is like 771.67. So the average refi is going to be about $8,000. So let's just say it was $8,000, and that becomes part of your $179,000 now that you owe, right? To get your new lower payment.
Right.
So let's say we pay back the first $8,000 because they added that on. So did you realize in the first year you pay this loan down by only $3,600 and you pay $5,600 in interest on that? And then in 24 months, you pay $7,300 down, but $11,000 in interest. It takes 26 months to pay back $8,000 and it costs $12,000 in interest. So a refinance here actually costs around 20 grand when you add how much money they rolled in for the closing costs and the interest rate and the interest cost on that loan. So if you want to know how to get out of this debt and the credit card debt and all that other stuff in an average of 7 to 9 years, that's the mortgage included. Let's see how we can get them back by understanding how the game is played. Go to my card right up above. And it is a digital business card. Click on Get a Savings and Earnings Report. And then we can show you the month, day, and year you could be debt free on everything. Folks, I'm all out of time online. So we're going to say goodbye to everyone, but I'm going to come right back here to Clubhouse and finish up the conversation. Let's hear from Dr. Eric Thomas one more time as we say goodbye. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down from my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.